Ridiculed on the galactic stage. Amidst the swirling nebula and glittering stars of the Andromeda Galaxy, a colossal space station hung suspended in the void. The Galactic Council headquarters, a marvel of advanced engineering from 100 worlds, stood as a testament to the unity and progress of the spacefaring civilizations that called this corner of the universe home. Within its cavernous halls, a cacophony of voices echoed as the representatives of countless alien species gathered for the annual Galactic Assembly. Insectoid zargans clicked and chattered, their iridescent carapaces shimmering under the artificial lights. Ethereal luminae floated serenely above the crowd, their translucent forms pulsing with bioluminescent energy. The towering reptilian crocs stomped through the throng, their heavy footfalls sending vibrations through the deck plates. Amid this vibrant tapestry of alien life, a small group of humans made their way towards the central auditorium, their expressions a mix of determination and trepidation. Ambassador Ilara Vestri, a tall, elegant woman with warm brown skin and piercing green eyes, led the delegation, her steps measured and purposeful. Beside her, Dr. Luca Sorensen, the brilliant cynobiologist whose groundbreaking research had earned humanity a place at the galactic table, fidgeted nervously with his datapad. As they walked, snippets of conversation drifted to their ears, each word laced with condescension and amusement. "Can you believe the humans are still using chemical rockets?" A gelatinous Solarian gurgled to his companion. "I hear they think they're ready for interstellar diplomacy," as spindly Arachne clicked, her mandibles twitching with mirth. "As if they could comprehend the intricacies of our trade agreements with their primitive minds." Ilara gritted her teeth, her jaw clenching as she fought to maintain her composure. She was no stranger to the disdain of the galactic community. Ever since humanity had first ventured beyond their solar system and encountered the advanced civilizations that populated the stars, they had been met with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. The technological gulf between Earth and the other spacefaring species was vast, and the humans' relatively primitive spacecraft and weaponry had become a source of amusement for many. The fact that it had taken humanity centuries to develop faster than light travel, a feat most alien cultures had achieved millennia ago, only served to reinforce the notion that they were little more than backward upstarts, unworthy of a seat at the galactic table. As they entered the auditorium, a hush fell over the gathered delegates. The room was a marvel of advanced technology, with shimmering holographic displays and floating platforms that defied gravity. At the center of the chamber, a raised dais held the council's governing body, a collection of representatives from the most influential species in the galaxy. Ilara and her team took their place on one of the lower platforms, feeling the weight of 1,000 eyes upon them. The human delegation was small and unassuming compared to the extravagant entourages of the other species, a fact that did not go unnoticed by the assembled delegates. A chime sounded, and the council leader, a towering Crox named Zorgax, rose to address the assembly. "Esteemed delegates," he rumbled, his voice amplified by the chamber's advanced acoustics. "We gather here today to discuss matters of great import to the galactic community. But first, let us welcome our newest members, the humans of Earth." A smattering of polite applause echoed through the auditorium, punctuated by a few snickers and whispers. Ilara steeled herself, knowing that this was their moment to prove humanity's worth. "Ambassador Vestri," Zorgax continued, his reptilian eyes fixing on Ilara, "please enlighten us as to Earth's recent advancements and contributions to the galactic community." Ilara rose to her feet, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that the fate of her species hinged on this moment, on her ability to convince the council that humanity was more than a primitive curiosity. "Esteemed council members," she began, her voice clear and steady, "I come before you today not to boast of humanity's achievements, but to offer our humble contributions to the greater good of the galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "In the short time since we first ventured beyond our world, humanity has made great strides in the fields of science, medicine, and diplomacy. Our researchers have developed new treatments for diseases that have long plagued the galactic community, and our diplomats have brokered peace treaties between warring factions on a dozen worlds." A murmur of surprise rippled through the auditorium, and Ilara felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps they were finally beginning to see humanity in a new light. But before she could continue, a grating voice cut through the chamber. "Peace treaties." The Arachne delegate scoffed, her multifaceted eyes glittering with malice. "Between primitive tribes armed with sticks and stones, no doubt." Laughter erupted from the gathered delegates, and Ilara felt her face flush with anger and humiliation. Beside her, Dr. Sorensen shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes downcast. "And what of your vaunted medical advancements?" A Zolarian delegate gurgled, his gelatinous form quivering with amusement. "Have you finally discovered the wonders of nanotechnology, or do you still rely on crude surgical procedures?" The laughter intensified, and Ilara felt her composure slipping. She had known that facing the council would be an uphill battle, but she had never imagined the depths of their disdain. As the mocking continued, Ilara's mind raced. She thought of the countless hours she had spent preparing for this moment, of the sacrifices her people had made to earn a place on this stage. She thought of the secret projects unfolding back on Earth, the groundbreaking advancements that would change the course of human history. And in that moment, she made a decision. Humanity would not be dismissed so easily. They would show the galaxy the true extent of their potential, even if it meant risking everything they had worked so hard to achieve. With a steely resolve, Ilara raised her head and met the gaze of the sneering delegates. "Laugh now," she said, her voice cutting through the din like a knife. "But mark my words, the day will come when humanity will stand among you as equals. And when that day arrives, it is you who will marvel at our achievements." A stunned silence fell over the auditorium, broken only by the sound of Ilara's own racing heartbeat. She knew that her words would have consequences, that she had just thrown down a gauntlet before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. But as she looked around the chamber, taking in the shocked expressions of the alien delegates, she felt a flicker of satisfaction. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, and now they would show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. As the council session drew to a close, Ilara and her team made their way back to their quarters, their minds buzzing with the events of the day. They had taken the first step on a dangerous path, one that would either lead to humanity's ascension or its destruction. But as they looked out at the stars beyond the space station's viewport, they knew that there was no turning back. The future of their species hung in the balance, and they would fight to the last to secure humanity's place among the stars. Little did they know that back on Earth, a project unlike any the galaxy had ever seen was nearing completion, a project that would change the course of history and shake the very foundations of the galactic order. The Prometheus was coming, and with it, a new era for humanity and the cosmos itself. Earth's hidden potential. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, a secret base hummed with activity. Hidden beneath the dense canopy and shielded from prying eyes by the most advanced cloaking technology humanity had ever developed, the Prometheus facility stood as a testament to the ingenuity and determination of the human spirit. Within its reinforced walls, a team of brilliant scientists and engineers labored tirelessly on a project that would change the course of human history. Led by the enigmatic Dr. Ilara Singh, a maverick physicist with a reputation for pushing the boundaries of what was possible, the Prometheus team had been tasked with developing a weapon unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. At the center of the facility, a massive hangar housed the pride of their efforts, the dimensional warship Prometheus. The ship was a marvel of advanced engineering, its sleek, black hull shimmering with an otherworldly iridescence. Powered by a revolutionary dimensional drive that allowed it to slip through the very fabric of space-time, the Prometheus was humanity's greatest hope for securing their place among the stars. Dr. Singh stood on a catwalk overlooking the hangar, her dark eyes fixed on the ship below. She had dedicated the better part of a decade to this project, pouring her heart and soul into every aspect of its design and construction. The Prometheus was more than just a weapon to her. It was a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had long dismissed them as primitive and insignificant. Beside her, Colonel Iden Reeves, the grizzled military liaison assigned to the project, shifted uneasily. "Are you sure this is the right move, Doc?" he asked, his voice gruff with concern. "Revealing the Prometheus at the Galactic Council. It's a hell of a gamble." Dr. Singh turned to face him, her expression resolute. "We have no choice, Colonel," she said, her voice firm. Ambassador Vestry's message was clear. "The galactic community sees us as little more than primitive upstarts, unworthy of a seat at the table. The Prometheus is our chance to prove them wrong, to show them what humanity is truly capable of." Colonel Reeves grunted, unconvinced. "And what if it backfires?" he pressed. "What if they see the Prometheus as a threat, a reason to wipe us out before we can challenge their supremacy?" Dr. Singh's lips curved into a humorless smile. "Then we will fight," she said simply. "Humanity has never backed down from a challenge, Colonel. We didn't cower in fear when we first ventured into space, and we won't cower now. The Prometheus is our ace in the hole, our ultimate deterrent against any who would seek to undermine us." The colonel fell silent, his eyes distant as he gazed out at the ship. He knew that Dr. Singh was right, that the Prometheus represented humanity's best hope for survival in a galaxy that had long treated them with disdain. But he couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with fire, that the consequences of their actions could be more far-reaching than any of them could possibly imagine. As he watched, a team of technicians swarmed over the Prometheus's hull, making final adjustments to the ship's systems. The dimensional drive at the heart of the vessel pulsed with an eerie blue light, casting strange shadows across the hangar floor. Dr. Singh's eyes gleamed with pride as she surveyed their work. "Magnificent, isn't it?" she murmured, her voice soft with reverence. "The dimensional drive is unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. It allows the Prometheus to slip through the very fabric of space-time, to traverse vast distances in the blink of an eye. With this technology at our disposal, humanity will never again be at the mercy of the galactic community." Colonel Reeves frowned, a flicker of unease crossing his features. "And what of the risks?" he asked, his voice low. "The dimensional drive is still experimental, untested in real-world conditions. What if something goes wrong?" Dr. Singh turned to face him, her expression grave. "Every great advancement comes with risks, Colonel," she said, her voice firm. "But the potential rewards far outweigh any dangers. The dimensional drive is the key to humanity's future, to our very survival as a species. We cannot afford to let fear hold us back, not now, not when we are so close to achieving our greatest triumph." The colonel fell silent, his gaze fixed on the ship below. He knew that Dr. Singh was right, that the Prometheus represented a turning point in human history, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the brink of something greater and more terrible than any of them could possibly imagine. As he watched, the hangar doors at the far end of the facility began to grind open, revealing a glimpse of the lush Amazon rainforest beyond. The Prometheus's engines roared to life, the dimensional drive pulsing with an otherworldly blue light. Dr. Singh's eyes gleamed with anticipation as she watched the ship begin to rise from the hangar floor, its sleek black hull shimmering in the artificial light. "And so it begins," she murmured, her voice soft with reverence. "The dawn of a new era for humanity, a future in which we take our rightful place among the stars." The Prometheus rose higher, its engines thundering as it cleared the hangar doors and soared out into the open sky. The ship hung suspended for a moment, a sleek black shadow against the backdrop of the Amazon rainforest, before the dimensional drive engaged with a blinding flash of blue light. In an instant, the Prometheus vanished, slipping through a tear in the fabric of space-time and disappearing from view. Dr. Singh and Colonel Reeves watched in silence, their hearts pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They knew that the Prometheus's maiden voyage would be a turning point in human history, a moment that would either secure humanity's place among the stars or seal their fate as a primitive, insignificant species. But as they gazed out at the empty sky, they couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope, a sense that humanity's greatest triumph was yet to come. Little did they know that even as the Prometheus embarked on its historic journey, forces were moving against them, dark machinations set in motion by those who sought to undermine humanity's ascension at any cost. The road ahead would be fraught with danger and sacrifice, a crucible that would test the very limits of human ingenuity and resolve. But for now, the Prometheus sailed on, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had long dismissed humanity as primitive and insignificant, and with each passing moment, it drew closer to its ultimate destination, to the heart of the galactic community and the stage upon which humanity's fate would be decided once and for all. Sabotage and sacrifice. As the Prometheus slipped through the fabric of space-time, its crew worked tirelessly to ensure the smooth operation of the ship's systems. In the vessel's gleaming command center, Captain Nera Patel stood before a vast array of holographic displays, her dark eyes scanning the readouts with practiced ease. At her side, Lieutenant Commander Elijah Russo, the ship's chief engineer, studied the dimensional drive's output with a furrowed brow. "Everything appears to be functioning within normal parameters, Captain," he reported, his voice tight with tension. "The drive is stable, and we're making excellent time." Captain Patel nodded, a flicker of satisfaction crossing her features. "Excellent work, Commander," she said, her voice crisp with authority. "Keep a close eye on those readings. We can't afford any surprises. Not now, not when we're so close to our objective." Elijah saluted sharply, his jaw set with determination. "Aye, Captain," he said, turning back to his console with renewed focus. As the bridge crew continued their work, a figure moved silently through the Prometheus's gleaming corridors, their footsteps muffled by the hum of the ship's engines. Clad in the uniform of a junior engineer, the saboteur made their way towards the vessel's engine room, their heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. For months, they had worked tirelessly to infiltrate the Prometheus project, to gain the trust of their human colleagues and secure a place on the ship's crew. It had been a difficult and dangerous mission, one that had required them to sacrifice everything they held dear in service to a higher cause. But now, as they stood on the brink of their ultimate goal, the saboteur felt a flicker of doubt, a moment of hesitation that threatened to undermine their resolve. They thought of the lives that would be lost, the chaos and destruction that their actions would unleash upon the galaxy. Steeling themselves, the saboteur pushed those thoughts aside, their jaw set with grim determination. They knew that there could be no turning back, that the fate of their people depended on the success of their mission. With trembling hands, they reached into their pocket and withdrew a small, innocuous-looking device, no larger than a data chip, but within its sleek black casing lay a weapon of unimaginable destructive power, a virus designed to infiltrate the Prometheus's systems and bring the ship crashing down from within. Taking a deep breath, the saboteurs stepped into the engine room, their eyes scanning the banks of gleaming machinery that powered the dimensional drive. They knew that they had only one chance to succeed, one brief window of opportunity before the ship's security systems detected their presence. Moving quickly, they made their way towards the central control console, their heart pounding in their chest. With trembling fingers, they inserted the virus into the console's data port, their breath catching in their throat as they watched the device's status light flicker to life. For a moment, nothing happened, and the saboteur felt a surge of relief, a fleeting hope that perhaps their mission had been in vain. But then, with a sudden, sickening lurch, the Prometheus's engines began to scream, the dimensional drive pulsing with an eerie, discordant light. On the bridge, Captain Patel's eyes widened in horror as the ship's systems began to fail, the holographic displays flickering and dying one by one. "Report," she barked, her voice sharp with urgency. "What's happening?" Elijah's fingers flew over his console, his face ashen with fear. "Captain, we've got a problem," he said, his voice trembling. There's a virus in the system, and it's spreading fast. The dimensional drive is destabilizing, and we're losing control of the ship." Captain Patel's jaw clenched, her mind racing as she weighed her options. She knew that if the dimensional drive failed, the Prometheus would be lost, its crew consigned to an eternity adrift in the void between dimensions. But even as she opened her mouth to give the order to abandon ship, a sudden, terrible realization struck her. The Prometheus was no ordinary vessel, and its loss would be more than just a tragedy for its crew. It would be a blow to humanity itself, a setback from which they might never recover. In that moment, Captain Patel made a decision, one that would echo through the annals of human history for generations to come. "Elijah," she said, her voice steady with resolve, "can you isolate the virus? Buy us some time." Elijah hesitated, his eyes wide with fear. I think so, Captain," he said, his voice trembling. "But it won't be easy. The virus is already deeply embedded in the system, and every moment we delay increases the risk of a catastrophic failure." Captain Patel nodded, her jaw set with determination. "Do it," she said, her voice brooking no argument. "Whatever it takes, Elijah. We cannot let the Prometheus fall. Not now, not when the fate of humanity hangs in the balance." Elijah swallowed hard, his fingers trembling as he set to work, his mind racing as he fought to outpace the virus's insidious spread. In the engine room, the saboteur watched in growing horror as the dimensional drive began to pulse with an eerie, sickening light, the very fabric of space-time warping and twisting around the ship. They knew that they had made a terrible mistake, that the virus they had unleashed was far more powerful and unpredictable than they had ever imagined. With a cry of despair, they lunged for the control console, desperate to undo the damage they had wrought. But it was too late. With a final, terrible scream, the dimensional drive shattered, the Prometheus's engines exploding in a blinding flash of light. The saboteur was consumed instantly, their body vaporized by the unimaginable energies unleashed by the drive's failure. On the bridge, Captain Patel and her crew could only watch in horror as the ship began to come apart around them, the bulkheads groaning and buckling under the strain. Elijah worked frantically at his console, his face slick with sweat, as he fought to isolate the virus and stabilize the ship's systems. But even as he labored, he knew that it was a losing battle. The Prometheus was doomed, its fate sealed by the saboteur's treachery and the inexorable march of fate. With a final, terrible shudder, the ship began to break apart, its crew consigned to an eternity lost in the void between dimensions. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, Dr. Singh and Colonel Reeves could only watch in stunned disbelief as the Prometheus's signal vanished from their screens, the ship disappearing from the fabric of space-time, as if it had never existed at all. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, their minds reeling with the magnitude of the loss they had just witnessed. The Prometheus had been more than just a ship, more than just a weapon in humanity's arsenal. It had been a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in a galaxy that had long dismissed them as primitive and insignificant. And now it was gone, its crew lost to the void, its promise of a brighter future snuffed out in an instant of unimaginable tragedy. Dr. Singh felt a sudden, terrible weight settle upon her shoulders, a burden of guilt and responsibility that threatened to crush her where she stood. She had been the one to push for the Prometheus's creation, to pour her heart and soul into the project that had ultimately led to this moment of devastating loss. And now, as she gazed out at the empty sky, she couldn't help but wonder if it had all been for nothing, if humanity's greatest hope had been nothing more than a foolish dream. But even as despair threatened to overwhelm her, Dr. Singh felt a flicker of something else, a stubborn, defiant spark that refused to be extinguished. She knew that the road ahead would be hard, that the loss of the Prometheus would be a blow from which humanity might never recover. But she also knew that they could not give up, that they could not let this tragedy define them or break their spirit. Humanity had come too far, fought too hard, to let the dream of the Prometheus die with its crew. And so, with a heavy heart and a steely resolve, Dr. Singh turned to Colonel Reeves, her eyes blazing with a fierce, unyielding determination. "We have to keep going," she said, her voice steady with conviction. "The Prometheus may be lost, but the fight is not over. We will build again, we will learn from our mistakes, and we will show the galaxy what humanity is truly made of." Colonel Reeves hesitated, his eyes haunted by the weight of the loss they had just witnessed. But as he looked into Dr. Singh's eyes, he saw a strength there, a resolve that could not be broken by even the greatest of tragedies. And so, with a nod of his head and a grim, determined smile, he joined her in that moment of defiant hope, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring. For the Prometheus was gone, but the spirit of humanity endured, unbroken and unbowed in the face of even the darkest of nights. Desperate measures. In the wake of the Prometheus's tragic loss, a pall of grief and uncertainty hung over the earth. The news of the sabotage and the ship's subsequent destruction had sent shockwaves through the global community, sparking fears of alien infiltration and raising uncomfortable questions about humanity's readiness to take its place on the galactic stage. In the halls of power, Admiral Ivanova and her allies worked tirelessly to capitalize on the momentum generated by the Prometheus's arrival. They knew that the ship's sudden appearance had granted humanity a rare window of opportunity, a chance to assert their influence and authority on the galactic stage like never before. But they also knew that such an opportunity came with great risk, and that the wrong move could easily plunge humanity into a war they were ill prepared to fight. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the galaxy watched with bated breath as humanity began to flex its newfound muscles. The Prometheus became a common sight in the skies above a dozen worlds, its sleek, black hull a symbol of human power and determination. And wherever the ship went, it was greeted with a mix of awe and fear, the alien species of the galaxy struggling to come to terms with the sudden emergence of a new player on the galactic stage. Some sought to ally themselves with humanity, sensing an opportunity to ride the coattails of the rising power and secure their own place in the new order. They came with gifts and flattery, their envoys seeking to curry favor with the human leadership and gain access to the secrets of the Prometheus's advanced technology. But others plotted and schemed, seeing in humanity's ascendance a threat to their own power and influence. They whispered in the shadows, their agents seeking to sow discord and division among the human ranks, to undermine the unity and resolve that had carried them so far. And at the center of it all stood the Prometheus, a shining beacon of human achievement, and a symbol of the terrible price that had been paid to bring it into being. For even as the ship and its crew basked in the glow of their newfound celebrity, they could not escape the weight of the sacrifices that had been made to make their triumph possible. The lives lost in the sabotage of the original Prometheus, the countless hours of toil and struggle that had gone into the construction of its successor, the ethical compromises and moral sacrifices that had been made along the way. All of it hung heavy on the shoulders of those who had been a part of the Prometheus project, a burden that could never be fully lifted, no matter how great their achievements might be. And yet, even in the face of such darkness, there were those who refused to give in to despair, who clung to the belief that the sacrifices they had made had been worth it, that the dream of human ascendancy was one that could not be abandoned, no matter the cost. Among them was Dr. Ilara Singh, the brilliant physicist who had been the driving force behind the Prometheus project from the very beginning. In the months since the ship's triumphant arrival, she had thrown herself into her work with a fierce, almost desperate intensity, pouring every ounce of her genius and determination into unlocking the secrets of the dimensional drive and pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and understanding. But even as she labored tirelessly in her lab, Dr. Singh could not escape the weight of the choices she had made, the lives that had been lost, and the moral compromises that had been struck in the name of human progress. In the quiet moments between breakthroughs and discoveries, she would often find herself haunted by the faces of those who had been lost, the brave men and women who had given their lives to make the Prometheus a reality. And in those moments, she would grapple with the terrible knowledge that their sacrifices had not been in vain, that the work she and her team were doing was not just important, but essential to the survival and prosperity of the human race. For Dr. Singh knew, perhaps better than anyone, that the galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, filled with wonders and terrors beyond human comprehension. And she knew that if humanity was to have any hope of surviving and thriving in such a place, they would need every advantage they could get, every scrap of knowledge and technology they could lay their hands on, even if it meant sacrificing everything they held dear, even if it meant crossing lines and making choices that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. And so, as the Prometheus continued to blaze a trail across the stars, as humanity continued to assert its place among the great powers of the galaxy, Dr. Singh and her team labored on, driven by a fierce, unshakable conviction in the rightness of their cause. They knew that the road ahead would be long and hard, that the challenges they faced would test the very limits of human ingenuity and resolve. But they also knew that they had no choice but to press on, to continue the work that had been begun so long ago, no matter the cost. The official nodded, his eyes shadowed with grief and uncertainty. He knew that the admiral was right, that the time for half measures and moral hand-wringing had passed. Humanity was fighting for its very survival, and in such a fight, there could be no room for hesitation or doubt. "Very well, Admiral," he said, his voice steady with resolve. "You have our full support. Do whatever you must to ensure the safety and prosperity of our species, no matter the cost." Admiral Ivanova nodded, a flicker of satisfaction crossing her features. She knew that the road ahead would be hard, that the challenges they faced would test the very limits of human ingenuity and resolve. But she also knew that they had no choice but to press on, to continue the work that the Prometheus and her crew had begun. The galaxy was watching, and humanity could not afford to falter, not now, not when the stakes were so high. As the meeting adjourned and the officials began to file out of the room, Admiral Ivanova lingered behind, her gaze distant and thoughtful. She knew that the decisions they had made today would echo through the ages, that they would shape the course of human history for generations to come. But she also knew that they were the right decisions, the only decisions that could ensure humanity's survival in a galaxy that was far more vast and dangerous than any of them had ever imagined. With a final, determined nod, Admiral Ivanova turned and strode from the room, her mind already racing with the challenges that lay ahead. The Prometheus may have been lost, but the dream of human ascendancy endured, and she would stop at nothing to see that dream become a reality. Arrival and revelation. In the heart of the Galactic Council headquarters, a sense of unease hung heavy in the air. The news of the Prometheus's destruction had spread like wildfire, sparking whispers of concern and speculation among the assembled delegates. For many, the loss of the human ship was a tragedy, a setback in the ongoing efforts to bring the fledgling species into the galactic fold. But for others, it was an opportunity, a chance to put the upstart humans in their place and reassert the dominance of the established powers. As the council session began, the chamber buzzed with tension, the air thick with the weight of the momentous decisions that lay ahead. At the center of the storm stood Ambassador Ilara Vestri, her face a mask of calm resolve. She knew that the odds were stacked against her, that the loss of the Prometheus had dealt a blow to humanity's credibility on the galactic stage. But she also knew that she could not afford to show weakness, not now, not when the fate of her species hung in the balance. "Esteemed members of the council," she began, her voice steady and clear, "I come before you today not to make excuses, but to offer a frank and honest assessment of the situation in which we find ourselves." Around the chamber, the delegates murmured and shifted in their seats, their eyes fixed on the human ambassador, with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "The loss of the Prometheus is a tragedy, one that has shaken our species to its very core," Ilara continued, her gaze sweeping the room. "But it is also a wake-up call, a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk in the vastness of space, and the need for unity and cooperation in the face of such challenges." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber, the delegates exchanging uneasy glances. They knew that the human was right, that the galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, and that no species could hope to survive alone. But they also knew that the established powers were reluctant to cede any ground to the upstart humans, that they saw the fledgling species as a threat to their own dominance and influence. "We come before you today, not as supplicants, but as equals," Ilara pressed on, her voice rising with conviction. "Humanity has shown time and again that we are a force to be reckoned with, that we possess the ingenuity, the determination, and the sheer stubborn will to overcome any obstacle that stands in our way." A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber, the delegates taken aback by the humans' bold proclamation. Some scoffed and shook their heads, dismissing the ambassador's words as empty bravado. But others leaned forward in their seats, their eyes glinting with a newfound respect for the tenacity and courage of the human spirit. "And yet, despite our many achievements, we have been met with scorn and derision at every turn," Ilara continued, her voice sharp with righteous anger. "We have been dismissed as primitives, as upstarts, as a species unworthy of a place on this august council." A hush fell over the chamber, the delegates shifting uncomfortably in their seats. They knew that the human was right, that they had been guilty of underestimating and dismissing the potential of the fledgling species. But no more, Ilara declared, her eyes blazing with a fierce, unyielding determination. "Today we come before you not to beg for scraps from your table, but to claim our rightful place among the stars." As if on cue, a sudden, deafening roar filled the chamber, the very foundations of the building shaking with the force of some unimaginable power. The delegates leaped to their feet, their faces etched with shock and disbelief as they stared at the view screen that dominated the far wall of the chamber. There, hanging in the void of space, like a gleaming, impossible vision, was a ship unlike any they had ever seen. It was massive, dwarfing even the largest of the Council's own vessels, its sleek, black hull shimmering with an otherworldly iridescence. And emblazoned upon its flank, in letters that burned with the fire of 1,000 suns, was a single, impossible word: Prometheus. A stunned silence fell over the chamber, the delegates staring at the screen with a mix of awe and terror. They knew that the ship they were seeing was impossible, that the Prometheus had been destroyed, its crew lost to the void. And yet, here it was, a gleaming, impossible testament to the resilience and determination of the human spirit. "Behold," Ilara said, her voice ringing out across the chamber like a clarion call. "The Prometheus, reborn from the ashes of its own destruction, a symbol of humanity's indomitable will, and a harbinger of the new era that is to come." Around the chamber, the delegates erupted into a cacophony of shock and disbelief, their voices rising in a clamor of confusion and fear. Some cried out in anger, demanding to know how the humans had managed to resurrect their fallen ship. Others simply stared at the screen in mute, dumbfounded amazement, their minds struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what they were witnessing. "This is impossible," the Zargan delegate sputtered, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and outrage. "The Prometheus was destroyed, its crew lost to the void. How could the humans have rebuilt it so quickly, and with such advanced technology?" Ilara simply smiled, her eyes glinting with a fierce, unyielding pride. "The how is unimportant," she said, her voice calm and steady. "What matters is the why. Humanity has always been a species of dreamers, of builders, of those who refuse to accept the limitations that others would place upon us." She turned to face the council, her gaze sweeping the chamber with a fierce, unwavering intensity. "And now we stand before you not as primitives, but as equals. The Prometheus is a symbol of our determination, our resilience, and our unshakable belief in the power of the human spirit." A hush fell over the chamber, the delegates staring at the human ambassador with a mix of awe and trepidation. They knew that the arrival of the Prometheus had changed everything, that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in ways that they could scarcely begin to comprehend. And as they watched, the massive ship began to move, its engines flaring to life with a blinding, impossible brilliance. It swept down towards the planet's surface, its hull shimmering with the fire of 1,000 suns as it descended through the atmosphere like a falling star. In the heart of the council headquarters, Ambassador Ilara Vestri stood tall and proud, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen with a fierce, unyielding determination. She knew that the arrival of the Prometheus marked a turning point in human history, a moment that would be remembered for generations to come. And as the ship touched down on the planet's surface, its landing gear settling into the earth with a soft, almost gentle hiss, she couldn't help but feel a sense of profound, unshakable pride. For the Prometheus was more than just a ship, more than just a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. It was a beacon of hope, a shining light in the darkness of a vast and uncaring universe. And as the delegates of the Galactic Council looked on in stunned, disbelieving silence, Ilara knew that humanity had finally taken its rightful place among the stars, and that nothing would ever be the same again. The price of power. In the wake of the Prometheus's stunning arrival, the galaxy was plunged into a state of chaos and uncertainty. The sudden emergence of such a powerful and advanced human vessel had sent shockwaves through the established order, upending centuries of galactic politics and diplomacy in a matter of moments. On Earth, the news of the Prometheus's triumphant return was met with a mix of jubilation and trepidation. For many, the ship's arrival was a source of immense pride, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. But for others, it was a deeply troubling development, one that raised uncomfortable questions about the price of power and the lengths to which humanity was willing to go to secure its place among the stars. In the halls of power, world leaders and military officials gathered to discuss their next move, their faces grim with the weight of the decisions that lay before them. At the center of the storm stood Admiral Elena Ivanova, the steely-eyed commander of Earth's fledgling space fleet. "The loss of the Prometheus is a blow. There's no denying that," she said, her voice steady with resolve. "But we cannot let this tragedy define us, nor can we allow it to break our spirit. The Prometheus was just the beginning, a first step on the long road to securing humanity's place among the stars." Around the table, the assembled officials murmured their agreement, their eyes shadowed with grief and determination. They knew that the road ahead would be hard, that the challenges they faced would test the very limits of human ingenuity and resolve. But they also knew that they had no choice but to press on, to continue the work that the Prometheus and her crew had begun. The galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, and humanity could not afford to let their guard down, not even for a moment. "We must assume that the saboteur was not acting alone," Admiral Ivanova continued, her gaze sweeping the room. "Whoever was behind this attack, they must have had help from within our own ranks. We must root out this corruption, this weakness, before it can spread any further." The assembled officials nodded grimly, their faces etched with a mixture of anger and determination. They knew that the task before them would not be easy, that it would require them to confront uncomfortable truths and make difficult choices. But they also knew that the alternative was unthinkable, that to let the cancer of betrayal and infiltration spread unchecked would be to invite disaster on a scale that humanity had never before seen. "We must also consider the possibility of a preemptive strike," Admiral Ivanova said, her voice low and urgent. "The loss of the Prometheus has shown us that we are vulnerable, that our enemies are willing to go to any lengths to undermine our efforts. We cannot afford to wait for them to strike again." Around the table, the officials exchanged uneasy glances, their minds racing with the implications of Admiral Ivanova's words. A preemptive strike was a risky proposition, one that could easily backfire and plunge humanity into a war they were ill prepared to fight. But at the same time, they knew that the Admiral was right, that to sit back and wait for their enemies to make the next move was to invite disaster. The galaxy was a harsh and unforgiving place, and those who hesitated, who showed weakness, rarely survived for long. "I understand your concerns," Admiral Ivanova said, her gaze steady and unwavering. "But we must also consider the cost of inaction. The Prometheus was just the beginning, a warning shot across our bow. If we do not act now, if we do not show the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with, then we will be inviting our own destruction." The room fell silent, the weight of the Admiral's words hanging heavy in the air. They knew that she was right, that the time for half measures and cautious diplomacy had passed. Humanity was at a crossroads, and the decisions they made in the coming days would shape the course of their species for generations to come. "What do you propose, Admiral?" one of the officials asked, his voice tight with tension. Admiral Ivanova leaned forward, her eyes blazing with a fierce, unyielding determination. "We must accelerate our timetable," she said, her voice steady with conviction. "The loss of the Prometheus has set us back, but it has also shown us the path forward. We must redouble our efforts, pour every resource we have into the construction of a new fleet, one that will eclipse even the Prometheus in its power and sophistication." The officials exchanged glances, their faces etched with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They knew that the Admiral's plan was ambitious, that it would require them to push the boundaries of human technology and ingenuity to their very limits. But they also knew that they had no choice, that the alternative was to resign themselves to a future in which humanity was forever relegated to the sidelines of galactic affairs, a mere footnote in the annals of history. "And what of the ethical concerns?" another official asked, his voice hesitant. "The loss of life on the Prometheus, the risks inherent in pushing our technology beyond its limits. Can we really justify such actions in the name of our own survival?" Admiral Ivanova's gaze softened, a flicker of empathy crossing her stern features. "I understand your concerns," she said, her voice gentle. "But we must also consider the cost of inaction. The galaxy is a vast and dangerous place, and those who refuse to adapt, to evolve, rarely survive for long. We owe it to the brave men and women of the Prometheus, to their sacrifice, to ensure that their deaths were not in vain." For the Prometheus was more than just a ship, more than just a symbol of human achievement and determination. It was a promise, a declaration to the galaxy that humanity would not be denied its place among the stars, that they would fight and struggle and sacrifice everything to claim their rightful destiny. And as the ship and its crew continued to push forward, to explore strange new worlds and chart the unknown reaches of the cosmos, they carried with them the hopes and dreams of an entire species, the unshakable conviction that the future belonged to those who had the courage to seize it. For better or for worse, the age of humanity had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again.